Good afternoon,
Hi there.
Nick.
That's me.
I know you're only halfway through the day, typically probably about 18-hour days, but it's fantastic to be here at Buy Direct, and you've got the most incredible growth story. I'm really so inspired when I talk to you and listen to you and also read about all the great things you're doing here. But it would be great to tell the audience, introduce yourself and
Sure.
tell them a little bit about you, the individual, and the business, what it does.
Sure. So the growth story really started here in Huddersfield when I bought a computer shop, not very much from a chap who actually works for me now, who was going through divorce and preferred to give a business away to me for very little rather than let his ex-wife get a chunk of it. So a great lucky start in life in a way. And I started off retailing PCs, retailing computers from the shop. And over time, with the money that I accumulated from the sale, we were always cash positive, always generated profits. And from day one, I decided that I wanted to scale the business rather than just run a lifestyle business. So I took the money that I earned in each business and I invested that in another business. Why did I do it in another business rather than doing it organically? Because if I could pay the right price for another business, it gave me a significant leg up from time. So I saved 2 or 3 years of business development, take a lot of risk out of it, and can bring our expertise of warehousing expertise of IT systems and financial discipline to these businesses that potentially don't have that. So over the period of time, the reason we've scaled, the way I've scaled is growing organically, buying not very good businesses that have gone bust, businesses that are about to go bust, businesses that are distressed, buying them, taking what's good out of them, which is usually the people with the knowledge of the product, of how to buy it, how to sell it, and then bolting them in, if you like, to our mothership. And over time, building that up. So one quick example, we bought a business in Leeds, not far away from here, called Furniture 123. It used to be great at its time, number one in the furniture business. Over time, because its model was a bit broken, had declined to around £1 million revenue when we eventually bought it out of administration. So it went bust, we bought it out of administration, bolted it into our business now, and it's now part of a £100 million lifestyle division, which we've turned around by creating a bit more discipline around how we approach each business unit, and importantly, providing a very stable, reportable environment that it's based on.
You make it sound so simple, and I know it's very not overly complicated, but there's a lot of moving parts. I know. I think on the note of in terms of the Buy Direct business, what sets you apart from the competition?
Yeah, sure. It's a good question. So I suppose what's kept me awake at night from day one is how to be different. How we can keep away from what I see as the juggernaut of Amazon, which is coming right down the middle of the online high street, if you like. It's coming for everybody. How you can stay out of their way. You can't take them on and beat them. How you can stay out of the way. And then you've got, if you like, market share companies who don't run business like I did. So I'm running it for profit. Got no shame about that. Growth and profit, long-term sustainability. But profit is a good sense check to me. And there are other businesses out there that operate in our space that don't run on profit principles. They run on market share principles. And that disruptive danger on the side is also what keeps me awake at night. And so between Amazon and these pure play market share companies, how do I create something that resonates with customers? And the answer is a number of things. One, you do things that other people don't like doing. So it's a bit of a Yorkshire expression, whether it's muck with brass, but the way it's difficult, it keeps a barrier to entry, and you can do things that other people can't do. So, for example, it's 2-man delivery, or for example, we install air conditioners, or for example, we assemble furniture, or for example, we import difficult big products from the Far East and try and get them into the UK in one piece, compliant, working well, nice design, and get them out to the customer. These are difficult things to do, which the likes of Amazon and some of our pure play competitors veer away from. So I suppose it's 2 things. One, daring to be different, not just follow the crowd, finding your niche areas that you can operate in. And second of all is get your clues from the customers rather than competition. Listen to your customers. I often go on the phone to the customer, ask them, how can we improve things? What products didn't we have that we should have? And building that sensitivity that the customers demanded to your business DNA, I think is really essential.
And I think, one of the questions I want to ask is really, obviously, March 2020, we went into lockdown. COVID, how did that affect your business? Because I did read somewhere where you had a record year and record profits.
So I remember when lockdown happened, I thought, are we going to survive or not? So the instinct at that time was batten the hatches, stop order, cancel stock, preserve cash, assume the worst, that your warehouse isn't going to operate. So I spent the first 6 months focused entirely on keeping the show on the road, keeping our warehouse open, keeping drivers on the road, making sure we repair products. And it really was a business of two halves. All those that were in the business throughout COVID, and I came in every single day without exception during those lockdown days, so supporting the warehouse team, supporting the operations team that had to come in. They didn't have a job. We didn't have a business if they'd come in. I wanted to lead from the front, and also making sure that all those from working from home were bound into the business and felt part of it. And then during COVID, you realize, wow, this is playing into our hands as a retailer. And someone at the time who had too much stock, deliberately, of course, not, but we just had a bit too much stock at the time. So suddenly demand goes through the roof. We're one of the few operations that fully staffed up and able to deliver that demand. And we trade pricing. One of our models is to trade pricing based on demand and supply. So we did really well. We had an absolutely fantastic COVID from a business point of view. It was utterly exhausting from a mental point of view for everybody in the business. Everybody put their heart and soul into it. But from a profit point of view, it's fantastic. From a revenue point of view, it's fantastic. But then you're left towards the end of COVID puzzling, is this sustainable? What's real? In all this revenue growth, we grew 60% up to 450 million quid in just 18 months. And then you're trying to predict what next year is going to be like. Where's your baseline? Is it COVID? Is it pre-COVID? So suddenly you're in this, do you scale up? Do you invest in staff? Do you invest in warehouse? Do you not? What stock do you pull in? So a huge lot of variables which I've never had before. It's never been as indecisive, wrong word. It's never been as uncertain, the market, as it is now. And we've made mistakes. We bought too much in some occasions and we've scaled back from that. We've got out of that. We've probably hired too many staff. So we've downsized, right-sized the business since then. And now we're trying to find our feet in a world where you cannot yet predict demand.
But it was a record year. And I think you turned over about 500 million, and it's been reported around just over 30 million pounds profit, which is a tremendous result. And you did that also while caring for the people, which is exactly what, people is at the, I always say people is at the heart of any business I'm involved in, and the same for you. What would you say in terms of your career has been let's say the big highlight?
Sure.
A real bell ringing moment.
Mm-hmm. So I'd say probably the thing that framed me, that made me interested in scale more than anything else, was I used to work in a clothing factory where if you could shave 10p off the manufacturing of a jacket, it made all the difference because you were producing 1,000 jackets a day, and it was the difference between profit and loss. So the idea of small tweaks to a large business and scaling that was very exciting to me. As I say, I was never really interested in the lifestyle side of the business. I think, success, doesn't sound arrogantly, but success is relatively easy and it papers over all the failures. But you don't really learn from success. You get hooked on success. You like the buzz of it. It's an adrenaline fix and everything else. But actually, your real lessons come from pain. And it doesn't come from books. It doesn't come from talking to other people. It comes from experiencing that pain where you've screwed up, where you know it's your fault. You've either hired the wrong person or you've made the wrong decision. And it hurts. And it's internalized and you feel like vomiting out the mistakes that you've made. And, my advice to other people in the business is, pain's a good thing. It's a really, really, the best lesson you can learn is pain. And we've experienced massive amounts of pain, especially in the last year with after COVID. And you realize that each year I look back and think I was a child and thinking actually how naive I was, which are good things. You're constantly learning, constantly getting better. It humbles you. It absolutely humbles. I think that's probably the number one lesson is in this game, particularly in retail, you can't get arrogant because, it's it's about what's happening tomorrow, not what you've done in the past. And tomorrow's massively uncertain. You don't own your customers in retail to the same extent you could in a different type of business.
Now, here's the question for you. How well do you sleep? And do you have any sleepless nights, or do you dream about things?
Yeah, constantly. So you never stop working. In the middle of the night, without fail, I'll wake up at 4 o'clock every morning. I'll try and go back to sleep. And the first thing I think about, unfortunately, isn't my kids, isn't my wife, it's work. Because there's problems mulling over all the time. And I suppose the thing I've learned over the past 3 or 4 years is not to let it get to me as much emotionally. It gets to me intellectually, and it's a constant intellectual puzzle. but I try not to let it stress me out internally. So while it wakes me up at night, I don't feel the same lots of stress levels that I would have felt a number of years ago. And I think having a bit of money in my pocket helps. De-risking the business, you become a better business person. You're less emotional about everything. You're more strategic. Having kids helps ground you. But I've got a job to do, and that job isn't just about making money. It's finishing. It's getting the projects finished and our 3 to 5 year plan delivered.
Obviously, we talk about the 5-year plan.
Yeah.
Where do you see the business in 5 years by direct? Because it could be a world you could go for world domination, or you could conquer the UK.
Yeah. So I see the job as to become much better at what we do. And if we become better at what we do and we fix and improve all our operational issues and make sure we've got the right staff in the right place within the business, then the customer ultimately benefits, because you're taking problems out, the customer gets their goods on time and without any problems. You're improving the product quality, and therefore less damages from a customer point of view. And I see everything as that's a win for us is also a win for the customer. So my ambition now is not necessarily going for absolutely ballistic growth, although growth is exciting, but much more about consolidating a market share, creating much more of a barrier to entry in the products and services that we're offering. So it becomes more remote, less, if you like, attackable from the outside and from competition. And I think we'll end up with a much more defensible, robust and profitable business if we approach it that way, rather than just going for growth for its own sake.
I mean, when I walk around, or let's say look at your website and we talk about, the electrical appliance business, it takes me back to my days when I was 15 and I used to work for Commerce, Blue Coat in Armley Road. And I used to have the flags out in the morning, big flags. Some of them were a bit torn due to the strong Yorkshire wind. But I really got a great education. And in those days, we used to get fluctuations in sales, not just at Christmas time, but when VAT would change, you used to have like luxury goods. Some were luxury goods that had a higher rate and lower rate. But it is a business that is very sensitive, isn't it, to price?
So you can't, it punishes you. You get it wrong, you get the price wrong, you get the stock position wrong, you're absolutely punished for it. There's no slack, there's no heavy margin that you can fall back on. It is ruthless, and because of that, you become extremely disciplined. So when I started the business, I was lucky enough to start it on low margin IT, laptops, desktops, computer products, which are low margin, full of hassle. If you don't mop up on your returns, then you go bust. If you don't make sure you add accessories and sell all the add-ons to a laptop or a desktop you sell, you don't make any money. If you don't provide the services on the back of it, you don't make any money. If you over-advertise, you're lost. So that paper-thin margin that you see in electricals, that sensitivity to the outside market, teaches you a really useful discipline. So when you get to the giddying heights of double-digit margins and more that we're on and some of others, you say, gosh, right, yeah, you can understand why people who haven't had the discipline that I've had end up not appreciating and throwing it all away in high margins. So I think we're in a much better position to handle higher margin products from come from a low margin background.
Now, obviously, as a very successful business leader and you built a business that employs over 1,000 people, what lessons can you share with the audience?
Yeah, sure. So I suppose the first thing is forget life-work balance. There isn't such thing as much as political correctness tries to encourage everyone to have a work-life balance. They say it is impossible. You've got to be 100% dedicated to work. I was lucky. I was married at the time when I started the business. I could work the 100-hour weeks without any guilt or without any tugs on me. Second of all, is your instinct is massively important. You need numbers to back it up. You can't run a business just on instinct, but following that inner voice, yet not allowing that inner voice to be drowned out by other opinions around you is really important. I think thirdly is you always got to remember it is your business. You're alone up there at the top. It's your decisions. It's your strategy. You can't look to anyone else because they're employees. And as much as they care and are loyal, ultimately they've got a different set of priorities than you have. And there is only one person that can think of the strategy. You can't buy that strategy in. You can't ask for it from around you. You can get opinions from people around you, but ultimately you're on your own to make those decisions. Having the guts to make those decisions and to take risk and to accept that that risk and reward are very real. If you don't risk anything, you don't get rewarded and you end up going backwards. I think the last area, the most important area, is always, it's how you invest in people. And I don't mean that in some lofty sort of warm sense. I mean, picking the really good people that you've got, and pick those people, you look after them, I think, you really feed back to them brutally and honestly where things are going wrong and where they can improve. But you hang on, make sure you don't leave them, because those nuts and bolts people, the people that understand your culture, understand the detail of the business. Without that, you don't have a business. There is no foundation. You can't buy in those sorts of people. And the last thing, I can always say the last thing, there's another thing I keep thinking of, but the last thing I'd say is that there is only a handful of people that will be suitable for your business. And no matter what a recruiter tells you, no matter what your HR department tells you, no matter what a networking contact tells you, you've got to think really, really, really carefully about that recruitment process. And it's not just about a tick box CV. It's about whether someone fits or not.
Well, let me tell you, it's been fascinating talking to you. I've got something out of today. It's been of real value. So thank you, Nick Glynne.
No, thanks so much. Cheers.